Good evening, everybody. My name is Adam Armaheiser, and today I'm going to be teaching you guys about torts. Now, you may be asking yourself, what are torts? And by definition, torts are defined as a civil, as opposed to a criminal, wrong other than a breach of contract. For an act to be a tort, there must be three elements. 1, a legal duty owed by one person to another. 2, a breach or breaking of that contract. And 3, harm done as a direct result of the action. There are 3 types of torts. We have intentional torts, unintentional or negligent torts, and strict liability torts. So first, intentional torts. Intentional torts are essentially when you could prove that somebody intentionally meant to cause harm to another. So an element of intent is required. There also must be an injury. Intentional torts can happen to a business, a person, or property. Some examples of intentional torts are assault and battery, false imprisonment, defamation, invasion of privacy, intentional infliction of emotional distress, fraud, trespass and nuisance, and intentional interference with contractual relations. The next type of tort we will be discussing is unintentional or negligent torts. Now, unintentional torts are usually the result of a party's negligence. So often we will hear you should have known better in cases of unintentional torts. For something to be an unintentional tort, there must be a duty, a breach of that duty, a causation, and there must be damages. Some examples of unintentional torts are excuses, acts of God, assumption of risk, vicarious liability, contributory and comparative negligence. The third and final tort I'll be discussing with you all today are strict liability torts. So, typically, this is when liability is imposed without finding fault. And usually in cases of strict liability torts, the defendant did not intend to injure the plaintiff, and the defendant adhered to the standard of care imposed on a reasonable person. This is when liability is imposed because of the type of injury, and liability should rest on that person in the best position to avoid harm. To help you all better understand the concepts, here's an example of an intentional tort. Kevin and Amber, who have been married for 6 years, get into an argument after Kevin discovers Amber has been having an affair. Furious, Kevin gets into his car to go find the man his wife has been having an affair on him with. Upon seeing the man, Kevin decides to run him over with his vehicle. And as a direct result, the man suffers from a concussion. Kevin was later arrested and charged with multiple felonies. In this example, Kevin committed an intentional tort, specifically the tort of battery. There was a legal duty owed by Kevin, and that was to not intentionally hit pedestrians while driving. There was a breach of that duty whenever Kevin intentionally hit the man with his car, and there was an injury sustained. In this case, the man suffered from a concussion. Moving on, I will now give you an example of an unintentional tort. On a sunny day in the beautiful state of New Jersey, Amber decides to take a stroll in her brand new car. When suddenly, Amber reaches for her phone and begins simultaneously texting and driving. Amber hears a loud boom and realizes she hit an innocent bystander who was passing the street. Amber feels terrible because she did not mean to hit the man, but as a direct result of her negligence, the man suffers from a broken leg. In this scenario, Amber committed an unintentional tort. She had a duty to abide by the rules and regulations of the road. There was a breach of that duty. The causation was Amber's texting and driving, and the damages suffered was the man's broken leg. The final example I will give will be an example of a strict liability tort. Adam decides to take his dog, named Navajo, next door to his neighbor's house for a doggy play date. The two dogs enjoy their play date, and everything seems to be going well, that is, until Adam's neighbor Ann comes out eating a slice of vegan cheese, which is Navajo's favorite. Navajo springs into action and, in the process of retrieving the neighbor's cheese, accidentally bites the neighbor's hand. In this scenario, Adam is still liable for the injuries his neighbors sustained. Despite not intending for the injury to occur, and despite adhering to the standard of care imposed by a reasonable person, Adam is still found liable. This is an example of strict liability because even though Adam is not at fault for the accident, he is still considered liable because it was his dog whom caused the injury. In summary, throughout this video, we've covered intentional torts, which occurs when it is provable that a party intended to cause harm to another. Unintentional torts is when a party did not intend to cause harm, but did as a result of negligence. And strict liability torts, which is when everyone does everything correctly, but somebody still got hurt. So that concludes our video. Thanks for watching, and I wish you all the best of luck on your next law test.